What's up, everybody? We are
There it is.
live. What's going on, Brad? How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling really good, man. I'm like I was just saying before, I really feel like we're finding our flow and really enjoying doing these pods with you every day. And I'm super excited for what's to come in the future, man. I think we're going to build something great here. So, I'm doing great. I'm feeling great. I'm fired the fuck up. I'm ready to go. And how are you?
Dude, let's fucking go. All right, if that's the energy that I'm gonna be feeding off of, we're gonna have a good episode.
All right, good. Yeah, I agree. We're going to talk about the law of attraction today. I'm excited to talk about because I have personal experience with this, and it's an interesting topic because some people think it's a lot of woo-woo stuff, and some people believe so deeply in it, and some people believe in it too much. And I'm excited to kind of break down the differences between all those things. So first, let's just talk about what the problem with the law of attraction is, and then we can go from there. But the problem that a lot of people have is that they do not believe that they can be successful or have whatever they want. And I find that with a lot of people I talk to, and at least for myself, we grow up in this growth mindset mode, right? We grow up with almost believing the law of attraction because we're told as a kid, you can do anything you want. You can be anything you want. What do you want to do? What do you want to be? And you're given the opportunity to dream this life for yourself. But somewhere along the way, a lot of times, maybe in college or when you graduate college and you get your first job, that is when the growth stops for a lot of people. That is when the dream stops for a lot of people. That's when a lot of people start to doubt themselves and don't think the way they did as a childhood of, oh, I could do anything I want to do, or I could be anyone I want to be. That's when people start settling, and they get settled into a career. They get settled into a relationship. They get settled into a certain lifestyle. And all of a sudden this, their belief in themselves and their belief in their capabilities starts to dwindle. And the problem is, without having a belief in yourself or your abilities, you will not be able to achieve anything that you want to do. You have to, as corny as it sounds or as cliche as it sounds, you have to believe that what you want is possible. You have to believe that you are capable of achieving the thing that you want. And like I said, I found that along the way, a lot of people lose that. So most people know what they need to do to be successful. It's just that little seed of doubt that tells them they can't do it, that stops them from moving forward. So that's the biggest problem with people not abiding by the law of attraction or believing in the law of attraction, is just the fact that they don't believe in themselves. And again, there's a lot to this, but Brad, I want you to explain a little bit about, what the law of attraction is and kind of how we can get out of, what I just said about not believing in ourselves, and how do we fix that?
For sure. So before I jump into that, I wanted to address one other piece, I think, that keeps people from being able to abide by the law of attraction, take advantage of it. And I think you're right that stagnation usually happens when you start to enter that period of life where really you're autonomous now and you're the one in control of what your destiny is going to be more so. But I do think that people, and it's not for any fault of their own, but a lot of people grow up building a paradigm. Even though people tell them they can do whatever they want, their role models and their viewpoint on the world is framed by the people that are closest to them. And so depending on the jobs and the attitude towards money that people's parents had, that their friends and their friends' parents had, the relationships that their parents had, their friends' parents have, the people in your closest community when you're at a very early impressionable age, without any fault of their own, can really set them up to believe what it is that can be true for me in the future, whether they know it or not. And this comes down to subconscious programming, which is something that we'll talk about a little bit later in the episode. But essentially your whole life, you're building up a filing cabinet of evidence of what it is that can be true for me in the future. And early on in your life, a lot of that is just external environment telling you what it is that can be true for me. So without even meaning to, you've got this seed of doubt because you've only ever seen and talked with and lived with and learned from people that have a future that may not meet the standard of the one that you want for yourself. And so I think that paradigm is built for a lot of people early in their life, and then it follows them through their life. And they're always wondering why they want something, but they don't feel connected to having it. And it's that seed of doubt that you were talking about, because that belief wasn't instilled in them at a time when it could have been really important, because they were growing up. Their brain was very impressionable, very plastic. But all that to say is you can change these things. You can change the way your brain thinks. And just because you grew up in a environment that didn't promote this, it does not mean that you can't make the law of attraction work for you. And so let's jump in.
That out. Yeah, that was good.
And because I've experienced it myself. Everything's on a spectrum. And like, I grew up in, like, I'm grateful for how I grew up and my childhood. And it was definitely a lot better than a ton of people out there who weren't as set up for success. But there are still things I can point to where, like, my frame of reference for what I believed could be true about my life was impacted by how my parents thought about the world. And it's no fault on them. That's the world that they grew up in. But you need to make a decision to shift the paradigm for what you believe to be true. And it's going to likely look different than everything you've been taught by the environment that you've lived in up until this point in time, and especially early on in your life. And so let's talk a little bit about the law of attraction. You mentioned earlier woo-woo, and I do want to go on record that you and I do believe at a scientific, at a fundamental, at a quantum level that the law of attraction does exist. And so when people are talking about law of attraction at this quantum level, at this frequency level, what they're referring to is that every cell in your body, every atom, everything resides on a frequency. Essentially, everything is vibrating matter and energy. And so essentially there is an infinite number of possibilities for how your life could evolve and what is possible for you. But the things that are available to you are things that are on the same frequency that you are plugging into, that you are giving off, that your body is releasing into the universe. And so your beliefs about what can be true quite literally dictate what can be true for you. And so taking that down to a quantum level, you're like legitimately plugging into the frequency of the future that you want, or you're not, based on what it is that you're believing. And because of that, there's like a universal and underlying universal connection between you and this future based on what your belief about that future is, your level of conviction. And so like whether or not you believe that is true, though, I think you and I have a more practical approach to what the law of attraction is and how you can apply it in your daily life. And so I'll talk a little bit about this. Feel free to jump in because I know you've got some strong perspectives on this, but like in a higher level scientific way to think about this, your brain operates in multiple modalities, but the two primary ones for this conversation are you've got the conscious mind and you've got the subconscious mind. And at any given point in time, if you're feeling motivated, really the things that you're saying, the thoughts that actually pop into your head when you're not really focusing on your thoughts are all dictated by the subconscious mind, which has been pulling in information from your entire life and storing it like a file cabinet. And it doesn't care what is right or wrong. It just objectively stores the information and then, without your permission, guides your actions. And so the law of attraction basically says that whatever is sitting in your subconscious is what's going to dictate how you act. And so if you think about wanting something in this world and moving towards that, your subconscious is going to be pushing you, again, without your permission, towards whatever it is that you believe to be true about the world, whatever it is that you want to be taking action towards based on that level of conviction and belief. And so if you want to take advantage of that fact about the brain, you need to think thoughts, build conviction in your conscious mind, which then go get stored in your subconscious mind, which then reciprocally starts putting you in a position where all of your micro actions, you wake up in the morning, you start doing things that pull you towards the future that you actually want. You think, I know that I can have $1 million. We'll just make it as simple as possible. I know I can have $1 million. The subconscious mind, if you truly believe that, now also truly believes that. And when you wake up in the morning, your micro actions, the things you start doing are that of a person who is going out and going to figure out how to make $1 million. You're going to start making the right phone calls. You're going to start saying the right things on the phone. You're going to start feeling in a way where you continue to take the actions that allow you to go make $1 million. And so ultimately, the law of attraction is reprogramming your mind to act in a way that you are going to start taking the steps. And also, you'll just find that you say the right things and you also filter for the right information. You end up bumping into the right people, or when you bump into the right person, you notice it and you identify it and you realize this is a person that I could connect with that could help me get to $1 million. And so all of a sudden, all of your focused energy, without you having to really focus on it because it's the subconscious pushing you, is now pulling you into the future that you want. And so,
yeah, I'm going to jump in real quick because
Please.
Exactly what you just said is a personal experience that I've had that I'm going to share just because I'm sure somebody can relate to it, which is you're saying that the seed of doubt, for example, is what holds you back. And as soon as you start believing that you can achieve something, your actions are going to follow. So when I was in this job that I was in and I didn't want to be in it anymore, like you said, 90% of me knew that I could do something, but there was 10% of me that just had this seed of doubt that I just could not, I wasn't capable anymore. I wasn't capable of building my own business. I wasn't capable of making the money I needed to make. And that stopped me from pursuing anything for 18 months, that seed of doubt. I just didn't do any actions that would have gotten me to the place where I wanted to go. But as soon as I started listening to content like we're making now, which is one of the biggest reasons why I wanted to do this podcast, because it changed my life. Once I started listening to content like this and that seed of doubt started to dwindle and I started to truly believe in what I wanted was possible, and I started to feel, I practiced the law of attraction in the way that I literally felt what it was like to achieve what I wanted to achieve, which was quitting my job and having this business. I wrote down not just what I wanted, but how it would feel. And I tried to live in that moment. And as soon as I started making that a practice, I started taking actions to actually get there. And you guys know the story by now. I obviously got there. But part of what you were saying is like when you start taking these actions, you will start making the right phone calls. You'll meet the right people. Or when you do meet the right people, you'll know what to do. And that is so true. Like when you are overcome by your seed of doubt and you're not doing those actions to get where you want to go, when you meet somebody that could potentially help you get to where you want to go, that person will not be attracted to you if you are in that seed of doubt and you don't believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else is going to believe in you. As a matter of fact, nobody is going to believe in you except for yourself until you do something that proves that you could do what you want to do. The action comes before the belief. Nobody's going to believe in you until you do something. So it's up to you to believe in yourself. But point being is, if you are in that stage of doubt where you don't believe in yourself and you meet somebody who could be a huge asset to your life, that person is not going to be attracted to you. Versus if you meet that person while you are fully convicted, fully believe in yourself, have a mission, that person will be attracted to your conviction. That's what people are attracted to, is conviction. And you need to be in a space where you're constantly working on yourself and trying to, become that person so that when you do come across these opportunities, it's like they say, luck is when opportunity meets preparation. And I don't know if this makes sense, but that feels like a great metaphor for the law of attraction to me, is like, I am going to get lucky because I am preparing to take advantage of any opportunity that I'm given. And any opportunity that I'm given has some form of luck involved, aka the law of attraction. So that's my perspective on, kind of just in my own life, how it changed. And when I did meet those people, because I had been to, business events and all these things when I had that doubt, and I didn't make any connections that were worthy. Versus when I go to those business events, when I have this conviction and this belief in myself and this energy that I portray, I make way more connections. People are more drawn to me. And ultimately, it just makes for a much more successful event and just in general networking and anything I want to do. So, yeah, man, it's super interesting to see once you change that switch in your brain, how the actions change. And the crazy thing is, it happens quickly. Like quickly meaning within a matter of months. It's not going to happen overnight, but 90 days is not a long time. And you can create a massive, massive change in 90 days.
So to break down what you said and put it in as practical of terms as possible, what I heard from you was you were in a position where you had a seed of doubt. And that seed of doubt, it sits in your conscious mind, and then it sits in your unconscious mind. So in your filing cabinet of subconscious mind that's pushing you in a certain direction, you've got this seed of doubt. And because of that, you're not taking the right actions to go actually achieve the life that you say that you want and do the things that you say that you want to do. And then I always struggle with whether it's belief or action that comes first, because really you need to be always doing them together, and then one builds off the other. But you essentially took the first action to start building the belief by pumping the right content into your brain, which builds conscious thoughts about belief. You're like, I'm hearing this. I'm just going to use this as an example. I'm not saying this is you, but I used to watch my parents have a certain opinion about how to get what I want out of my life. And it was a much more stagnant opinion. And it's one that left you with a seed of doubt. I'm not saying this is the case, but let's just, for this exercise, say that's what it was.
Yep.
Instead, now you've taken an action to start filling your mind with positive content that is creating a series of thoughts that say, I believe that I can do this. And now with enough of that gets pushed down into the subconscious, and you eradicated that seed of doubt through just belief alone. You took action to change the belief, but it was the belief that changed you from having a seed of doubt to not having this seed of doubt, which now that you've essentially reprogrammed your subconscious about what you truly in your core believe can be true for you, it then pushed you to start taking actions to actually go make that true. And so that was you just taking actions. And then also when those actions put you in a position where you now have opportunity, you were able to take advantage of it because your mind was in the right place, and your mind and your body were pushing you to do the right things to actually get to that future. Because at this point, your subconscious just believes this is the future for Josh. So this is how the brain and the body are going to act. And in most cases, it's that sense of conviction. You truly have to believe this is your future before anybody else was going to believe it was yours. And then all of a sudden, the dominoes just start falling. And I think that's when the law of attraction starts to take hold for people. But it's like,
and then you start believing it more.
You start, right? It's this reciprocal thing. And so the hard part is fucking kill that seed of doubt.
Have you ever had a seed of doubt? How do you kill your seed of doubt? I know I just explained how I did it I literally just listened to content. And when I worked, I always have something on in the background because I work from home. I don't like having the quiet house. I just like having something. So I would always have like South Park on in the background. I've seen every South Park episode literally 100 times, and I could recite them. And that's not the greatest, I love South Park, but it's not the greatest content to have feeding you constantly. So I just switched. That was the only switch I made, was having South Park on in the background to putting podcasts on in the background. And all of a sudden, I started to fill my brain with all this content that for years I thought was like woo woo. I didn't want to listen to any personal development content. I was one of those guys that was like, I don't need personal development. What a load of shit that was. I need personal development more than anybody, and I want it more than anybody. And to this day, all day long, I have podcasts going on in the background when I'm not on calls or whatever, because I'm just filling my subconscious with this, and that kills the seed of doubt. There's always going to be a little bit of doubt. Nobody will. Jeff Bezos doubts himself. Elon Musk doubts himself. But that seed of doubt should be able to be overcome, instantly once you grow your conviction and your belief. So that's how I got over it. Have you had any similar experiences like that?
For sure. And that was prior to moving out to Sacramento to start Space Station. I definitely just generally doubted that I could do what I needed to do to start and run a business. For me, it was consistently taking action that helped me believe that what I wanted could be true. And I think I got lucky with taking a couple actions, and a couple things went my way, which is probably the law of attraction at work that really helped me crush the seed of doubt to put me on a path where things started happening with more ease. And so in my case, I think the pain of not acting had just grown strong enough that I was pulled into action by that pain of being on that treadmill for 3 years. But then that action helped inform me that I can do what I need to do to create the future that I want. And it was around that time also that I started getting more into being aware of the thoughts that I was having and leveraging them to create a virtuous cycle of believing that I could do it. And
let's also address the fact that you had to have some level of belief just to take that action in the first place.
For sure. Yeah. And I think that was accumulated over time with just certain actions. I think if I could go back and do it all again, I've now got a much more elegant framework for how to insert belief in myself. And I think it's far easier. The way I'm explaining it, it was kind of just like I stumbled through into it just via believing in myself enough to take an action. And then that grew into another action and more belief. But I think for the audience, what you can really take away is there's a much more structured approach that you can take to instilling this belief in yourself. And then, as you said it, do daily practice to ensure that with enough repetition of feeling the future that you want, and then believing that you can have it, and just going through that exercise, you're changing what's in the filing cabinet of your subconscious. It's not rocket science. You just need to put in enough repetitions. You need to refile the filing cabinet. And that's what you said. It doesn't take years. It takes months. And so there is a highly practical way to start reprogramming yourself, which I think we should touch on before the end of the episode.
I was going to say, you just said if you could go back, you have a framework for how this would happen. And I think it would be helpful for the audience to give them what you would do now and, some actionable things that they could literally do right now today.
So this isn't what I would do now. This is what I do now. And I can tell you that it's paying dividends. And so the one thing about the brain and the subconscious is it's an imagination engine. It's an incredible facet of the brain of just how powerful the imagination is. And it responds accordingly. Your brain does not know the difference between imagination and what real life is. And so when you're reprogramming your subconscious, you want your subconscious to truly understand what the future is that it looks like. You want to get so deep visually in a sensory way in your imagination that your subconscious just doesn't even know that this isn't what your life is. This isn't what the future is. And so the practice that I go through is you want to get highly specific about what it is that the future that you want. Go sit down for no less than 10 minutes and just free flow about what it is, the future that you want. Paint the picture of what it is, and then pick a moment in time or a couple moments in time, and then get crazy specific about what it is that you're doing when you get that $1 million. Let's just say it's the $1 million. Don't imagine how you're going to get there first. Imagine the moment when you're looking at the bank account, you see $1 million. Figure out, what shirt are you wearing? What pants do you have on? Is your spouse next to you looking at the bank account? You two are celebrating together. And then dive deeply into the emotions that you feel when you're looking at the bank account. This is the key part. Tie yourself to that future state emotion and feel it right now, because that's what makes it real. And in worst case, you're feeling the feelings of what the future will feel like. You're already feeling the success. And when you start feeling success, it gets a lot easier to believe it. So look at that bank account. And honestly, if you need to sit and look at just look at your computer screen and get jacked up, even though it doesn't say the $1 million on there, live that moment so that you're conditioned to already have lived that moment. And now your subconscious is like, oh, I know what it is like to run the mind and a body of somebody who has $1 million in their bank account. And so that's the first and most practical exercise. And that's what I do to now direct myself towards the future, is deep visualization and trying to connect as many senses and feelings as I can to it. Another thing, it's like if you were drinking coffee while you're looking at the bank account, go drink coffee and imagine yourself looking at your bank account. Connect as many sensory experiences as you can, because it makes it as real as possible, which is going to crush that seed of doubt even more, because you feel it, you believe it. And so that's what I'm doing today to make it happen.
That was good. I love tying the emotion to it is so important. I remember when I did that, when I quit my job, and it was almost like, dude, it's kind of scary how similar your vision for your life can become in real life. When I had this vision of quitting my job, I had this vision of just quitting and then driving in my car, singing to music, being so excited. And bro, the day I quit, I was in my car singing. I fucking started crying because I was just overwhelmed with the fact that I literally had this vision, and it was almost identical to what became reality 6 months later. And I've experienced that many times in my life. So you cannot convince me that the law of attraction is not real. But like Brad said, it takes you actually figuring out what it is you want and reprogramming your brain, which is why we are making this show, to help you achieve those things. So I think what you just said, that exercise, is something that every single person listening to this should do. I don't care if you've achieved all of your dreams so far or if you have achieved none of them. At the end of the day, we should always be striving to improve. We should always be striving to create the next best version of ourselves. So you might as well take this practice seriously. Write down what the best version of your life looks like and break it down into specific daily actions that you can start taking. And as long as you take those actions consistently, that vision that you have for your life will become true. It's just a matter of time. It could take months, it could take years, it could take decades. But if you have this perfect vision for your life that's very clear, and you start taking the daily actions to match that vision, the attraction will come to you, and you will attract the life that you want. So I think that's a good place to end it, unless you have anything else you want to touch on.
No, I'm glad you wrapped it up with the action piece, because I talked a lot about how important the visualization is, but the follow-on pieces to that exercise that are critical is debriefing with yourself on what are the actions I need to take to go make that true. You're not going to have all the answers when you do that, but start figuring out what are the lowest hanging fruit, and you're going to build momentum, and your mind is naturally going to help you answer that question now that you've programmed it properly.
I was going to say that the more that you build the belief and conviction in yourself, the more motivated you are going to be. So for example, once I started believing and having that conviction, as soon as I was done working my job every day at 4 p.m., I worked until midnight every single day, and all day on Saturday and Sunday. And I didn't even mind. I wanted to do it because I believed so deeply in what my vision was that I had nothing else on my mind except achieving that vision. And that's how the action came. So when you practice this exercise, you may have no motivation right now, which is in reality, we rarely have motivation. We have discipline. But when you believe so deeply in what you want, you will feel more motivation than you do now. Like, you're not always going to be motivated to take the action, but you'll be more motivated the more conviction that you have. So I think that's a good place to end it. Everybody, thank you so much. Brad, thanks for sharing that. I think I learned, honestly, today a lot. So, yeah, guys, subscribe. Please leave a comment, leave a review, do the duties. We really appreciate you. And I just want to say one more time, dude, I'm really loving these things. And these conversations are really helping me in my daily life. So excited to keep going, excited to keep building with you. And let's keep fucking crushing. Thank you all so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.